Drive on Youth Jam Radio. Good afternoon. That's Creeping by Metro Booming, The Weekend and 21 Savage, 19 past 3. It's Drive on Youth Jam Radio. Feel free to message into the show, Instagram or Facebook, Youth Jam Online.
Made by youth, for youth, this is Youth Jam with Isaac.
If the following story brings up anything for you, Lifeline is available on 13 11 14. So it's the Kids Helpline on 1800 555 1800. The Children's Court President, the person who hands down judgments to young people on trial, has described Unit 18 at Casuarina Prison as a barbaric dungeon. Yes, a barbaric dungeon, and has released a so-called damaged teenager back into the community after staying in Unit 18 for 23 days. Gerry Georgatos is an activist and joins us on the line this afternoon. Thanks for your time, Gerry. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm sad to be on the program to be talking about sad things that should have been remedied by now, and it just continues on at Banksia Hill as it has been for the last 20 years.
It does indeed. But let me ask you this straight, Gerry. Is Unit 18 a barbaric dungeon?
Well, they're words that I've often used: barbaric dungeon, hole of human misery, corral, holding pen. I've talked about its barbarity at great length, and I was quite welcomed by the fact that the president of the Children's Court, Hilton Quayle, has also now used that same language, barbaric dungeon, because that's exactly what it is. And it's asphyxiating, it's suffocating, it's the making of the grotesque stir-crazy, and that's been the issue all along. Banksia Hill has never been a place of the redemptive, the restorative, the life transformative. It's been said that in the past it was better than what it has been now. That's actually not true. I've had interviews sent to me that I've done in 208 and also in 205, as early as that, where I condemned Banksia Hill for the lack of rehabilitative practices and the promises that it came in 1997 that it would be rehabilitated, but it has never delivered. But don't forget, it was only 10 years ago, a decade, that we had much the same of what's occurring now. Children transferred to Casuarina, segregated in a gazetted unit or they were transferred to Hakea at the time, actually, an adult prison from Banksia Hill, Canning Vale. About 80 kids in all were in an adult prison. That was 10 years ago. Nothing's changed since then, and it continues to get worse. But we seem to be making it as a recent phenomena, when in fact it's been a 2-decade-old uninterrupted story.
Yeah, and look, it's an awful, awful story, and we keep talking about it, and that's important. But Judge Hilton Quayle, the Children's Court President, described the teenager who was let back into the community as, and I quote, very damaged, traumatised and impulsive. His time in Unit 18, which took up 23 of the 34 days he was behind bars, it wouldn't have helped him and would now most likely cause him more harm and just see him be a part of this cycle of the prison system.
The government's created a cesspit. It's created one mess after another, one by one government after another. The cesspit is the neglect of every government since 1997. And in fact, even before 1997, when we had other facilities in place, Rangeview, Longmore and the like, it's been like that since inception, from the 80s and the 90s. There was some step forward in the 80s with psychosocial support. They fell away in the 90s and they were eradicated since the turn of the century. It's been punitive and an all-out punitive approach. The problem is that we've now got an arrest and release culture of damaged individuals who have been much more traumatised at Unit 18 than what they were at Canning Vale, Banksia Hill. Officially, we now have 2 juvenile detention facilities. That's the way they've been coded. The one at Canning Vale, Banksia Hill per se, and the one gazetted at Casuarina. Unit 18 is officially now Western Australia's 2nd juvenile detention facility. So the inference is that it will go on longer than what people have actually presumed or been led to believe. But the children of Unit 18, whereas those of those at Canning Vale who have gone through there since 1997 at a rate of annually, they're about 60 to 70% going on to adult incarceration once as adults. It'll be 100%. It'll be 100% of the children that have gone through Unit 18 that go into adult incarceration. But someone like Cleveland Dodd, who spent the last months of his life there, his fate was worse than the opportunity to take the maladaptive experience of incarceration at an adult prison. His fate was even worse. We don't learn. We don't change our ways. We don't take lessons. We have a government that's actually running on flouting of judicial rulings that have said it's unlawful to do many of the things that they have been doing. We have a government that's actually not prepared to invest in the life transformative. If something works, it works from the very first day. As I did with my colleagues in 2020 when we were in 8 weeks in Banksia Hill and made a tremendous difference and de-escalated every potential incident, and also reduced the prison population of the girls by more than half in that time, and no incentives with the boys in that time, and we worked with them closely. We didn't need anyone to guard us, to protect us, to walk around with us. We did our thing peacefully, resonated with the report and supported them post-release. That's the type of stuff that actually works.
Yeah.
The nurture, the mentoring, and the like that I can academize, but I shouldn't have to. These are no-brainers, and things can work from now. The fact that we need business cases to be modelling things is distraction politics. They're not getting the nitty-gritty of investing in what they're supposed to be doing. They're making all sorts of commitments about things that we never get around to investing in, and that's been the great frustration of the last several years under the incumbent Labor government.
Yep. And let me ask you, because Roger Cook is 6 months into his premiership, is he under-delivering when it comes to Banksia Hill and Unit 18? I mean, I guess you've just said they have been.
In terms of approachability, he's a fresher breath air compared to his predecessor, Mr. Mark McGowan, and the people that surrounded Mark. They had taken a punitive approach. They had taken an all-out separation in terms of a racist and classist narrative, and they dumped all responsibility on our most damaged and vulnerable kids, many who have parents in jail, many who have without parents and are orphans, many who have parents that have abandoned them, many and all, in fact, who live in dangerous nets and don't have the support that they should have and never had it from the beginning of life, and their life is one of suffering and misery that household Australians couldn't even possibly imagine the extent of, and would even be surprised, even after all the education that they've had this time, listening to the lived experience, the affected themselves, talking for themselves. But in terms of outcomes, we still haven't got anywhere to any decent place. There's been a few measures where they've got a few activities into Banksia Hill,
Yes,
or ramped up a few activities that have existed to keep kids busy and occupied, but still the crises go on, the self-harms go on, the attempted suicides go on at Banksia Hill, Canning Vale, the incidences with guards and the like, the altercations, the diminution, and the lack of hope that they leave the prisoners. I can tell you 3 kids have taken their lives post-release deaths after custody in the last year, and a couple of them have been on the class action, which breaks my heart, because it's just taking too long to get to where we need to get, and the only way we could have got there was to have government on side. I've got no real hope that this government's going to make the difference that it should with this seasoned expertise. I think they're banking on all sorts of things that are buying too much time. And yes, you were right, Isaac, under-delivery, underperforming, and actually the problem is non-delivery, non-delivery of seasoned expertise and of systemic repair.
Let me ask you, because you mentioned programs just before. Banksia Beats is one of the fantastic programs being run in there by a young guy called Optimus. He's a rapper here in West Australia. It's a very successful program. He mentioned there's been a waiting list of young people inside Banksia to get onto or into this program. Do we need more programs like that? Because it's clearly successful and it's clearly a distraction and a positive thing for these young people, Gerry.
The program is good. We've had programs over the years of hip-hop and barista coffee making and confidence courses in all sorts of things, and sound recording activities, and all the sport, basketball and the like. The hip-hop's great. The program I'm actually well aware of. I know that they've got dogs inside to actually be companion dogs and service dogs and the like. But their activities for the inside, they need to be there. These things we should actually have as rudimentary. These things we should actually have fulfilling a lot of their time and giving them identity building. The program that you mentioned is a successful program in actually building up someone's esteem and capacity building in something that he may or she may find some flavour within. And it's important for identity building to a positive state and to give them some hope to be able to reproduce that on the outside where they're supported to do so. If they've got no support, they're not going to go anywhere far post-release. But what we really need is a life transformative. All that needs to be the basic bedrock of esteem building to support the life transformative work that we need. We need the nurture. through seasoned expertise. We need the rapport in the residents, the unpacking of their stories, the pathwaying them to opportunities post-release, the aftercare release once they're in post-care. And that ought to be funded. So we don't have, in effect, diversionary programs on the outside, or they'd be doing them if they really existed, as is often being claimed they exist. We need 24/7 services and supports. We need to support individuals, as Megan Cracker, my daughter Connie Georgatos, and I supported during the kids that we supported in those 8 weeks in the facility. We supported them on the outside too, and those that we support to this day. And I support 160 kids as a volunteer mentor in my sort of retirement. And those who I support substantively, including those who have gone through Unit 18 and Banksia, have not returned. Doesn't matter how much offending they did, they haven't reoffended since I came into their lives, and they've put in the substantive support. That's what they need to put in, but there's got to be the support post-release, because many of them will return to a circumstance that is so toxic, that is so vulnerable, that it will bring them undone and have them reoffending, and all the positive work done on the inside by some of what you talked about being almost destroyed, strewn, blown to the winds.
Let me ask you, because the answer to this is pretty simple, as you've already mentioned, and it's very clear for the government to look at the answer to these issues. But to actually fix these problems, do we need some sort of culture shift, not only in government but in the public as well? Do we need to have a culture shift when it comes to incarcerating young people?
Well, in terms of the public, we need a public consciousness shifted. We need to actually, because it galvanises governments to do more of what they need to do, because they spend all their time getting trying to get themselves re-elected. It breaks my heart to see every political party, without exception, everybody that gets in, instead of fighting for the campaigns that they all promise. There's a lot of good parties that we all agree with, and I'm not going to name anyone because I'm not going to run anyone down, but they haven't delivered on Medicare into the prisons. They haven't delivered on the restorative approaches being lauded. They haven't delivered on raising suicide prevention. They haven't delivered on lowering or arguing the case for the age of being eligible to vote, delivered or campaigned upon. And all these parties betray expectation. They say all the things that will get them there, like the Labor Party said, we'll leave no one behind, hold no one back. All they've left are the most vulnerable behind, and they're holding them all back. And whether it's Labor, Liberal, Greens, they've got to grow up. They've got to understand that politics is a calling, that it isn't a career, and they've got to stop trying to get elected on false promises that they have no intent to campaign for, to the extent that they did. They're halfway through the House of Representatives is halfway through their parliamentary term, and then half the senators are also on notice to be fighting for re-election. As soon as they get in, they have a little bit of respite, a little bit of excitement, honeymoon period, do very little in that other than carry on about having got there. And then before it's even halfway to the next election, they're all trying to get themselves re-elected. And they're working all their energies on getting re-elected. And it breaks my heart to see this happen, because they're not who should be there. We need people that will go in there straight from the start on day one, in the same way that Megan and I did in Banksia Prison, made a difference on the very first day we started. They should make that very same difference in politics and in our bastions of parliamentary power from the very first day they get in. They should be fighting and campaigning for the causes that they promised that they would be about at the very least, and not build up their list of the next series of promises that they're going to work towards, or whatever, that they're going to seek no relief for. And it just disappoints me. I just see poverty getting worse, a scarcity of support, unreasonable narratives, and everybody about themselves. And it's our leadership, our parliamentary leaders, all 250 plus federally, and all throughout every state and territory, just procuring this self-centered approach about getting re-elected and putting everything down to we've got to be government one day. Well, some of you will never be government one day. But, and some of you may get to be government one day, but if the decades pass in the expectation of that, and once you get there, you do much the same as what everybody else done. We've got Albanese, a left-wing leader who was a proponent of left-wing politics since he was at the National Union of Students. And he's gone in there and he's been working for the top end of town. He's been betraying expectations, the like that, is concerning, disappointing. But if I'm running one down, I'm going to run them all down collectively. Every party has disappointed me that has got some sort of form of substantive power or brokerage. And the independent so-called Teal, they've also disappointed me. They've sided with the government on everything. Left, right and centre, they're Labor light. And the Greens have not lived up to their promises, the ones that I resonate with or whatever. Where's the Medicare campaign? Where's the prison restorative approaches? Where's the calling out and making a difference on Banksia Hill? Medicare is actually a national jurisdiction. It needs to be signed off by the federals. They're the ones that should be pressing on that. Where's them on the 501s with immigration? Where's them trying to get some reason into logic and make some difference through Parliament instead of just, cheap bites in the media and not delivering in the bastion of power and making that difference and holding government to account, and even if it has to hold it hostage. But I've given up waiting for these guys to make a difference. So I've been going hard trying to get every story out on everything I've got that I've been about, whether it's Medicare, whether it's restorative approaches, whether it's suicidality. And our First Nations people are going to be at a record high suicide tolling. Yet no media is prepared to run that at this time because it's fallen off the heap or whatever, because government hasn't made it an issue that they're prepared to fight about. But yet we're going to have the highest suicide toll of First Nations people in this country in the history of invasion, post-invasion. And we're not doing it. And suicidality for all Australians is at record high levels now, and youth will be extraordinarily high in Western Australia and across the country for all Australians. We don't raise the issues on this. And we're seeing 17 juvenile detention facilities in this country go from worst to worst, and the most notorious of all is now Banksia Hill, the world's worst facility in terms of self-harm rates, incidences, and now with this loss of a young life that we all called and now everybody says was foreseeable. Well, shame on them for saying it was foreseeable. They weren't there saying that 10, 15 years ago when I was, and haven't beaten the drum, and a lot of them are jumping on the wagon. And also I hold a lot of people to account and a lot of organisations to account who keep on beating their own drum and who are holding back reforms and who are doing the work of government, distracting politics so they can get funding alone and then not deliver. We need people that deliver. And if it's not working on the first day, it's never going to work. What works will work from the first day, as Megan and I did. And I'm not selling ourselves. I'm selling a narrative because I've got Parkinson's. I'm on my way out, but I'm not going to hold back and never have and look after myself and center stage manage my way into politics or center stage manage myself into favour with funders. We had funding on offer when we were there. We decided to put that at risk and call out a class action and not betray and soak up the blood of other innocents who number many more than those that we could have supported through the funding that we would have got that was guaranteed at the time because of the incredible work that we did. But I'm disappointed where things are at now, and we're still labouring across. Roger Cook is a better human being in terms of his understanding of these young ones, but he needs to break the shackles of the views of a lot of those others that surround him.
Yeah, Gerry, completely agree with everything you've said just then, and it's despicable the way the government does work, and at both levels, federal and also state as well. Thanks for your time this afternoon, Gerry. We'll have to leave it there, but thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, good people of Jam Radio.
Thank you, Gerry Georgatos there. He is an activist and he's very passionate about this, and I think we all should be. And we need to be calling on the government, the Labor government, to do something because it is despicable. We have people dying in prisons. I mean, I know they've done wrong, but they don't deserve this. It's disgusting. These detention centres are living hell for young people. I mean, if the Children's Court president describes it as a barbaric dungeon, then I think that's the actual ruling we need to do something more. It's disgusting. There really isn't any political will to fix Banksia Hill. I've said it a lot on this radio show. There is no votes in young people, and the government believe that, and they're not caring because these young people can't vote, or if they can vote, they're not going to vote for them. So there's no political will when it comes to Banksia Hill. They can say all they want, they're not going to change anything. And until they change something, more young people are going to die. And that is a disturbing fact. And we shouldn't accept this in Australia. We live in Australia. We live in Perth. We live in a first world country. We claim to be the best country on the planet, yet we treat our young people in Banksia Hill and Unit 18 as animals. even worse than animals in some cases. We treat some of our animals better than we treat these young people. Something needs to change. There's an inherent issue in Banksia Hill and Unit 18, and things need to change. I mean, you're seeing at the moment the Department of Justice hiring for more youth custodial officers. No one's going to apply for that job whilst Banksia Hill continues to go down the gutter. And it's been going down the gutter for decades. Something needs to change, and now. It's not something you can keep on kicking down the road until things magically change. I mean, is Roger Cook sitting in his office right now thinking, oh, one day it'll fix itself? It won't fix itself, Roger. You have to get off your ass and do something. That is the solution to this, is the government getting up today and calling for change and changing things, not just saying it, but actually doing it. That's what it comes down to. It is 20 to 4. Love to hear your viewpoints today. Instagram, Facebook, a Youth Jam online. It is 20 minutes away from 4 o'clock Friday, the 29th of December, 2023.